Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg is to use a speech to attack Labour after it sided with Conservative rebels to inflict a defeat on the government over the EU budget. The rebel MPs passed an amendment calling for a real terms cut in EU spending between 2014 and 2020. Labour described the defeat as a humiliation for David Cameron. Mr Clegg is expected to say Labour was dishonest and hypocritical in changing its policy on the issue. The BBC's political correspondent Robin Grant said that Thursday night's vote was "Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased." Not binding, but it was embarrassing for the Tory leader. It is fresh evidence that David Cameron is struggling to control his own side and was another show of strength by those who want big changes to the UK's relationship with the EU, he added. Mr Cameron has said that his position is that he would at best like to see the budget cut, and at worst seek to have it frozen, and that it was in the national interest to negotiate a deal. In a speech to be delivered "Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased." To the Chatham House International Affairs think tank, Mr Clegg will say Labour is well aware there was absolutely no prospect of achieving a real terms cut. Their change of heart is dishonest, it's hypocritical. And worst of all, Labour's plan would cost the taxpayer more, not less, he is expected to say. Because in pushing a completely unrealistic position on the EU budget, one that is miles away from any other country's position, Labour would have absolutely no hope of getting the budget deal agreed. Mr Clegg will go on "Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased." To say, "We've been waiting for years for the Labour Party to finally announce how they would cut spending. Now they have finally come out in favour of cuts, but in a way they know is undeliverable, and in a way that would hurt British taxpayers. And it turns out even their cuts cost money." He will also say that the Tory rebels have absolutely no hope of achieving their goal of forcing the EU to cut spending. The budget amendment, passed by 307 votes to 294, comes ahead of key "Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased." Talks next month. The defeat, the most significant since the coalition came to power in May 2010, came despite efforts by ministers to woo rebels and Mr Cameron earlier saying he would veto any budget deal if he could not get a good deal for Britain. Heated debate. The rebel amendment calling for a real terms reduction in EU spending was passed after a stormy debate in Commons on the 27-member union's next 7-year budget and UK contributions. The European Commission's proposed budget for 2014 to 2020 would see a 5% increase in "Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased." Spending on the current 7-year period. Government supporters said it would be nigh on impossible to negotiate the budget reduction given the lack of support among other EU nations, and urged MPs to back Mr Cameron's call for an inflation-linked rise as a minimum acceptable outcome. But Conservative rebels said Parliament would send a clear message and strengthen Mr Cameron's hand if they backed a spending cut. "If you think the EU has too much money, its budget is too large and it needs to be cut, then vote for "Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased." The amendment, Conservative MP Mark Reckless, who spearheaded the rebel position, told MPs. Foreign Secretary William Hague said ministers would take notice of Parliament's views, which reflected the real concern among MPs and the public about the size of the UK's financial contribution to the EU. The difference in this debate is over the tactics. The Prime Minister has made it clear that we are already going for the toughest position that any Prime Minister has gone for in EU budget negotiations. Shadow Chancellor Ed Balls said there had been cross-party "Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased." Support for the idea of reducing EU expenditure at a time of austerity at home. It is not about party politics, it is about the national interest. Parliament has spoken and David Cameron has got to listen and deliver.